Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So, thanks, everybody. Welcome to our little chat, PSN conversation with the Punk Rock Museum, which, surprise, is a little bit, yeah. So my name is Ellen Bernhard, and we are the, Stefano and I are the co-editors of a forthcoming book about NoFX, so we figured we'd have a nice little conversation.
NoFX, the 40 years of problematic punk provocations.
Right. There's a third co-editor who actually is the person who came up with the idea for the book, who unfortunately couldn't be here. It's David Pearson. Can we give him a round of applause?
He's a music theory guy.
He's the musicologist, and we are the communication and literature people.
Yeah. And I'm Paul Fields. I've contributed a chapter, which means I've written something for it, but my name isn't on the cover of the book.
Oh.
But he has a really good chapter.
So the book's going to be out in June. We figured it'd be a great time to have a little conversation, talk about the book, talk about some of the chapters, and of course, have a nice conversation and ask some questions.
Yeah. Yeah, this is fun.
So how do we start?
We start with this.
Okay.
I read this little thing here. This pamphlet, this flyer. What is it? I don't know. Leaflet. How? You say a lot of good things about NoFX, but how are we not PC?
Are you asking me? I'm asking you why.
No, it says right here that they're not PC. Often not PC. Yeah, how are we not PC? Fucking PC.
Are you?
People still don't like what we say.
So, I think that
you don't have to answer that because you can't.
Surely an important part in any conversation is to define terms before you start to have a conversation. So, what's PC?
I think we're politically correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What counts as PC and what doesn't count as PC? It's a central question.
Tim Yohannan always let Fat Records and NoFX advertise because he thought we were PC.
But Tim Johannan's canons were also about being ethical. Not just about PC.
He's not a good. That's not a good judge.
So I think that the concept of problematic is central to the book because unlike what the folks on Reddit thought when we put out the call for paper, the idea was to think about problematic as something that provokes thought, as opposed to problematic as something that should not be discussed or something that is kind of gets in the way of our appreciation of an aesthetic product.
Yeah, we're problematic, yeah, for sure.
What do you think makes you problematic?
We say things that people don't they don't like how they sound. You know, if we're playing live and I say, do we have any black people here today? People are like, oh, that's terrible. It's not terrible, it's just a question. And it turns out it's usually security guards. So I point that out. And people don't like to hear that. I'm just making...
And what's your point in asking that question?
Because it makes people feel uncomfortable.
Right. Which people, though? The security guards or the people in the audience?
I don't care. A lot of people. You have to make your audience feel a little awkward.
What's the benefit of doing that?
It makes me happy. And people, like, NoFX never had any kind of... We would never say the same thing. We never had anything planned. And people like that. They want to hear stuff that we say. But you can't say stuff like we said in Vegas, for instance. Paul! Talk about your chapter.
Okay, so my chapter, I guess the shortened version, for anyone that doesn't know, is there were some comments made at a festival in Vegas in 2018, and it referenced a mass shooting that happened in Vegas 8 months prior, and I guess you'd call them the permanently outraged community, decided to be outraged by those comments. My chapter looks at the way that the band uses humor on the one part, but also I think because there are a number of consequences for the band. One was all US shows were cancelled, but the other was there was a NoFX branded beer, and the company that made that beer immediately ceased all production and sent out a very gushing communication about distancing themselves from the band. And so part of my chapter is about how it's like the hypocrisy of organizations that like to align themselves with punk because it's sort of synonymous with transgression and being a bit rebellious. But when punk bands do things that they've been doing for a very long time that suddenly don't land very well with the permanently outraged community, they want to distance themselves.
Yeah.
And anyway, but I came up with the title. So because the brewery severed the relationship, I came up with the title "Beer and Joking in Las Vegas," and I worked my way backwards to a chapter. So that's.
So
But you said somewhere that going back to you like to say things that piss people off. You said there was never anything you wish you hadn't said.
yeah, Melvin said that. And I'm going to give you some details on this whole fiasco
I would love
that no one knows. So when I said we played a song, 72 Hookers, which is about Americans being lame, but it's about Muslims. We ululate. And what I said after that was, hey, we played a song about Muslims and didn't get shot. Now, I was referring to not only Charlie Hebdo in France, but the Danish guy who got shot by the Somali.
Yeah, Van Gogh.
Yeah. First of all, and then Melvin came back with, hey, because we're not a country band. And I was like, really, dude? It's only been 8 months. I was not speaking of that situation. And then I tried to help out my bro by saying, well, at least it was country fans and not punk rockers. Yeah, I mean, just fucking right on brand. No offense. What's very interesting is that we played on a Sunday night and no one reported about this. Like the story broke on Wednesday. And it wasn't because what we said was that bad. It's because the Republican Party needed to go after someone. It was the day out on Tuesday. Roseanne Barr said something about Obama calling him a monkey. I forget what exactly it was. And they needed to get the heat off her. So we became the #1 trend on Facebook on Wednesday, 3 days after we said it, because conservative radio went after us. And how do you become the #1 trend on Facebook? No effects. It's because it was all bots. We checked them all out. It was all people who had no friends. So it was a hit job on my band. Not saying that we don't deserve that, because sooner or later it was going to hit us, because we talk a lot of shit. The other things that I said that night, one of the things I said, this is our guitar player Hefe. He's a racist. No, sorry. He's a rapist. I mean Mexican. I'm sorry. Because that was what Trump was saying. But no one's scared of Hefe because he has, like most Mexicans, he has no upper body strength. So, I mean, what the fuck is that supposed to be? But that is way more offensive than the other thing. I actually had to write a letter. Sean Stern asked me to write an apology letter to a Muslim professor who was insulted by 72 Hookers. And you can't be insulted by that song because it just talks shit about Americans. It talks about how stupid we are.
It's an anti-war song.
It's an anti-war song. If we would have sent, 100,000 hookers to the Middle East, the war would be over. And I base that on a lot of the suicide bombers are male 16-year-olds that want the 72 virgins. And it's been documented. And because you can't see a woman's face in a lot of these countries in the Taliban. So they're horny. And so it is based on, I don't know fact, but it is based on something that I have read. 4 of the suicide bombers who didn't blow up said they all did it to get the 72 virgins. So that's what it says based on.
Does this answer your question about why we think you're not politically correct?
No, I don't think it's, we ululated the song. So that some people might find offensive, but why is it offensive? It's a way that some people applaud. I think everything I say is absolutely politically correct.
There's a subtitle in my chapter that uses the word hypocrisy, and I think the hypocrisy for me was in the organizations that distance themselves from the band, because in the grand scheme of no effects things that the band has done and said,
yes,
it is so mild. I can't remember the exact example, but there was a comments made on stage about a shooting. It was the the Batman movie shooting that were made on stage 8 days after the shooting. No one gave a fuck. It
was a hit job. It wasn't what we said.
It didn't meet the news that day.
Yeah.
And I think what I find interesting is large organizations trying to piggyback onto punk because it has this transgressive, rebellious element up until the point at which it's inconvenient for them.
Yeah, well, we were an easy target, but like Stone Beer, what the fuck are you thinking getting in bed with us? I mean, you're gonna get fucking burned at some point. But I talked to the owner, and he dropped us before he even called us, which is pretty weird. And they got thousands of hate letters for that, for what they did. Did not work out well for them, and they're not doing very well.
What you're saying is you can't get any of their beer downstairs.
Oh. I didn't do that, but they fucking failed in Europe badly. The other thing I want to say, first of all, about Charlie Hebdo. I wrote a song about them, and I was told that I couldn't release it because we would be hated in France if I ever did. Just wanted to read one line from it. Charlie Hebdo, you're allowed to have your views, but the way you portrayed Muslims was just how Hitler portrayed the Jews. And that was it was hate speech in cartoon form. And it was, if you keep doing that, they had a cover of Charlie Hebdo that it was someone shooting a Muslim, 1 down, 2 million to go. How is that satire? It's not. So it's not what they deserve, but it's what they get.
Who didn't make you release it? The band?
No, Baz, my French friend, he goes, don't release this. Because we were doing pretty well in France. Now that I'm retired, I might want to release that. And one more thing, this is really cool. So we had our U.S. tour canceled. Every big venue, the Punk and Drublic Festival. I found out later that it was actually my partner in Punk and Drublic who canceled those shows because he wanted to not give me my 33% anymore. So he canceled us, said, you're out. And I ended up getting 12%, which he never gave me. But he put Bad Religion and Pennywise on the same tour. Didn't do as well. But he was the one who sabotaged it. But I took the opportunity to go after Live Nation on Twitter. And I said, well, it looks like we can't play any big venues in the U.S. All our shows at big venues got canceled. I was going after Live Nation. And I said, NoFX has effectively been banned in the U.S. Just on Twitter. Fucking Fox News picked up the story. Something that I just made up. That was it. They didn't call me. I just said, effectively we're banned. And big all over Fox News and other news sources, NoFX responds to being banned in the USA. I was like, fuck yeah.
Great time for punk.
Awesome. And we got calls from so many independent promoters. We'll book you. We'll book you. And our guarantee tripled after that.
Shocking that Fox News.
Yeah, it's shocking.
Something that was not factually correct.
What's the deal with TMZ? They seem to love NoFX. When we were editing the book,
not during this time.
But I mean, like love as in love spectacle, like spectacle.
I don't understand. TMZ did a story on me being allergic to latex.
We saw that.
Fat Mike's sex life over.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't know. I mean, we're not that famous.
We were just shocked because NoFX appears on TMZ way more than even Green Day, which, like if you think about media attention,
I guess it's a better story.
Okay,
so nice job, Paul.
Thanks.
You're not one of the three.
Okay. Thank you very much. So that was you removed one of my questions. So
maybe we can frame a little bit for those who don't know about the structure of the book. So we have 13 essays by 14 scholars. The majority of scholars are dudes. Ellen is the only female contributor. We put out a call. We were hoping to get a much more diverse range of contributors. Did not happen. I'm just saying this to kind of frame the thing. The contributions range from, again, communication and media, literature.
I'm a sociologist, but I just write that stuff.
Sociology. We even have an author is from a business school. But one question I have for Mike is, what did you learn reading this book, if anything? If anything.
Oh, I learned so much. I really did. I never thought of my songwriting like David talked about, and a few people go to my music theory. Never thought about my songs like that before, and pretty much everyone. I learned something from almost everyone. Like I wrote for the back cover. This book was around for quite a while, right? Like it's not out yet. But I didn't get the rough draft until like a month ago.
It took they
That's when we got it.
Yeah, we
That's
didn't
when we
get
got
that.
it.
Okay.
Academic publishing is slow.
I was very humbled and so honored, and it's one of the best things that's ever happened to me. Really, reading about stuff I've done politically and songwriting, and the shit talking about Eric Melvin, that made me very happy. What I wrote for the back of the book is these self-proclaimed scholars actually do a pretty awesome job dissecting what I tried to accomplish in effects. Well, I would say at least 10 out of 13 did. They do all deserve a passing grade. Are these essays graded? If so, I want to see them. So when I said 10 out of 13, it just bothered them so. She's like, "Can you tell me? Because I'm having sleepless nights."
And to be fair, when I got the quote, I thought it was because you had only read 10 out of 13. So you were just saying, like, to make sure that, you know, we were keeping it okay, that it was 10 out of 13. But apparently not.
And people talk some shit about. There's some shit talked about me, but it's pretty cool.
It's a cultural critique.
Yeah, but I love that shit. I really do think about it. One guy says I'm the complete opposite of me. Like, yeah, I can see that.
Does it give you like an existential crisis, kind of looking at this? And...
No, it's just he's correct.
Yeah.
I forget exactly what he said, but I was like, "Dad, it's fucking me." Because they got the exact
I
opposite.
think it's not John says it.
Oh, okay.
Pretty cool shit. So, you two, Ellen. Ellen Bernhard, a Jew in a Catholic school. The polysyllabic Ellen Bernhard. You're not one of the three.
That was what was keeping me up.
I'm starting to get nervous.
I will be saying that to all 13 authors. So what's your, you want to say what your chapter is about?
So my chapter, I stole the idea from a Simpsons episode. So if anybody's ever seen the episode with Lionel Hutz, and he has his business card, and it says works on contingency, no money down. And then he changes the message of his business card and he writes works on contingency, ? No, money down. And so what I did was I stole that idea, and my chapter kind of builds on this premise of punk being the idea of no future. And that, you know, this is a sort of like short-lived, like fast-moving, not permanent kind of genre and ideology to being something that is what I call nope, future. And so we think about it, and that was what my chapter was about, is thinking about no effects and songs in the sense of, you know, punk is always kind of seen as this like pessimistic and, you know, self-destructive kind of genre. And I think no effects and music and some of the, you know, the museum and punk voter kind of speak, it's a contradiction to that idea. And so that's kind of what I look at. I look at War on Errorism, a couple songs, do a little lyrical analysis, and then look into the future with museum and punk voter.
Yeah, it's good. Let's talk about your critique of my lyrics.
Okay.
You say about Franco and America that I don't offer an answer. You know.
Yeah.
Well, there is no answer in life, in this world, especially in the country. There's no answer.
Yeah.
But I was saying that the more you read and find out, and more you read Howard Zinn and Chomsky, just the more, or propaganda lyrics, the more depressed you get. And like you're watching the news all the time, you can't do it. So, you know, this song is about a person who started reading stuff and he's just fucked out. Fuck, this sucks. So, yeah, I stopped reading a lot of those books. Michael Moore was, I think, the last one. at least Michael Moore was entertaining.
It's you know, the idea of existentialism and is there a future and what's the option?
Existentialism.
Yeah.
I don't know. You ever tried to read that book, Being in Nothingness? What the fuck? That's fucked up. It's stupid. The wall. Short, concise, easy to understand. Bad faith, all that shit. And what's the other one? Oh, Idiots Are Taking Over. Which a lot of people say that song is really relevant right now because there's no democracy in mental institutions. And that's where we are. And when you're 40th in education out of 40 countries, how can you have fucking democracy? I had a political science teacher. I was a social science major, but poli-sci was was a third of it. And he said, I can't believe that you fucking idiot college students get one vote and I only get one vote. I've been studying politics my entire life and I should probably get 200 votes. And I love that.
Well, the vice president thinks that you get as many votes as many children.
Yeah.
That's another way to look at it.
Yeah, no, because children do what you say. But how can you have? And we don't have a real democracy, and that's what that song's about. See, that's pretty right on. I like that a lot. And also, you talk about punk voter and Rock Against Bush, which I stopped doing after we lost the 2004 election. I did it for about 2 years. We got a couple 100,000 kids to vote, and we lost. And boy, that sucked. I had 2 shot glasses on my bar with a bunch of people came to my house to celebrate. And one was full of Valium, and one was full of ecstasy. And we were planning on taking the Valium because we lost, but we all took the ecstasy and just celebrated that we did our public service for the past 2 years. The funny thing, Jello Biafra was invited. And he called me like 6 times because I forgot to give him my address. So he showed up. But that was harsh. 2006 was okay, but I didn't want to do it anymore. I don't like doing politics. It fucking sucks. I was flying around the country doing morning shows and spending a lot of money. And on the Rock Against Bush comp, I got Foo Fighters and No Doubt and a lot of big bands on it. And we raised over $1 million for the John Kerry campaign. We lost the election and everyone, by the way, this is when I started getting hated for the first time in my life. When we did War on Terrorism, Vice Magazine gave it a 0 out of 10 and said, Fat Mike, you have no business sitting at the adults table. And I never had hate before because NoFX had stopped doing interviews for 8 years. We didn't do one interview for 8 years. No photo shoots, nothing. But when we had this problem and we could there was a chance of getting Bush out of office. It was really close. So we started doing interviews and I used all that leverage to get on Spin and Alternative Press. And, but we got so much hate from Bush supporters in the punk scene and just all over the place. It was like, oh, I don't like being hated. Shit, it's way easier when you don't say anything. But we did. But it really, after the election, just so many people said so much shit about me. We raised $1 million, and then we found out a month later that me and my ex, Aaron, had to pay $350,000 on that money, taxes, because it was nonpartisan. It's like, oh my God, this totally sucks. We lost, and we had to pay that much money. So now people ask, well, why do you do a Rock Against Trump? And fuck you. You can't. It would take me a half hour to convince a Bush supporter that he's wrong. It didn't take that long. You can't do that anymore. It's absolutely impossible. So I ain't fighting that fight. There's other ways you can help society and help your community besides politics, because it's kind of futile now.
What are those ways?
Well, I'm writing this book.
Can you tell us more about the book?
Actually, I have a website coming out too. It's called Pleasing Your Partner. It's to help couples that are in love but don't have sex very often, how to help them, because what we need is happier people in this world, especially angry white men who run the world. Somehow we have to figure out how to make them happy. I mean, actually, we don't. But yuck. But that's one way I'm going to try to help the world, not through politics, just helping out people, writing books, and making art that is important and helps bring communities together. So all you can do is take care of your people. Punk Rock Museum, this is like home. This is our fucking church. We take care of each other. We have a nonprofit. It's going to start soon, and punk rock is a community. We take care of each other. That's what we can do.
And what does a retired punk rocker do? What are you up to?
I've never been busier. Thanks for asking.
This was the prompt. It was the prompt to get you to read your thing.
Okay. I've been exercising a lot, and I'm not drinking a fucking bottle of vodka every night anymore because that's what I was doing on tour. I lost 15 pounds, and I am no longer diabetic. I've got diabetes on this fucking final tour, and I got rid of it. So what I have been doing is writing a book, which I thought I wanted to read some of it to you guys because it's a who said something about how-to books yesterday? Saying that they're just autobiographies called how-to books. Someone said that yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, I hear. And it's fucking kind of true. So I'm going to read some short chapters, if I may. It's called How to Write a Punk Song in 67 Easy Lessons. Some of the chapters. Is it really a punk song if there's no punk band? Come up with song titles that make people angry or feel stupid. Buy a book that has other words for words in it. 3-part harmony is like playing triples in tennis. Dear less than Jake. Jews and Mexicans shouldn't sing together. Jerry Garcia finally died, but not on the right day.
August the 9th.
Yeah. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. The Bad News Bears. The Hatfields and McCoys. The Ian McKay Theory of Melody. Irritable Vowel Syndrome. Don't do drugs when you write a punk song. Do drugs when you write a punk song. That's the next one. And never sing a punk song in a foreign language. It just doesn't translate. Here's a short chapter for you. The Big Book of Other Words for Words. Every good songwriter needs to buy the book that has a multitudinous amount of other words for words. It's like a dictionary book, but different. I like to call it the Other Words book. When you're writing lyrics, you just can't think of the right word to express your thoughts perfectly, or when you're writing a book and can't remember the name of the behemoth tome for other words, it's called. Go to the free reading Athenaeum. Ask for the book that has other words for words. This will help ameliorate you in your perennial inquisition of the parasite of mellifluous that you have always fervently venerated. I mean, you guys have such big words in your fucking and you know what they mean. Fuck. My new wife called me recalcitrant.
That's a bad religion.
I know. I'm like, wait. Oh, I am recalcitrant. I'm exactly recalcitrant. Chapter 12.5, or even better, just invent your own words. It's perfectly acceptable in punk rock to invent your own words. I know this from experience. I've invented a bunch of words, and it launched my career from being a mere amateur word user to being an esteemed member of the Urban Dictionary Brotherhood. Once you get accepted to the UDB, you not only get online credit for inventing a word, but you get an official UBD coffee mug with your new original word on it for only $15.99. Some of my new original words, as I like to call them, are Viaggravation. This is when you take Viagra before a date and your date never shows up. You got a boner, nowhere to put it. Prozac accusations. When a Prozac user doesn't respond well to medication and starts accusing everyone around them of being Eastern European. Ketamine. When you wake up from a K-hole and think that you have figured out the meaning of life, funny because everyone who figures this out can never seem to remember what it is. Adderall altruistic. When someone on Adderall tries to help someone in need, they will overthink it in all the ways they can help. And by the time they make the decision on how to help the person in need, will have found someone else to help them. Klonopinions. After a couple Klonopins and some grain alcohol, some people get very opinionated and express their opinions to anyone who will listen. The problem arises when no one can understand what they are saying because their speech is so slurred. Hence, Klonopinions are very rarely actually expressed unless written down. I haven't finished that one. Anyway, so those are that's some of the words for that. One more chapter, because it's chapter 45, Jews and Mexicans. Those ones don't sound like music theory. This one is more music theory somewhere. Jews and Mexicans shouldn't sing together. Back in 1995, when NoFX were recording Heavy Petting Zoo, I realized that Hefe's voice doesn't make for good harmonies with me. I figure that's because I'm Jewish and he's Mexican. But could there be another reason? I don't think so, but let's look into it. The theory: Mexicans and Jews shouldn't sing harmony together in a professional arena. Well, Hefe and I have been singing harmony live together for 5 years before this, and I must say that it wasn't very good. Was this because I couldn't sing in key and he could, or was it something more sinister? Hefe wasn't a punk rocker. He grew up in the barrio taking music lessons in high school and then singing lessons privately. I was a punk rocker who went to a university but didn't study music. I did, however, graduate from the Darby Crash School of whining sporadically into a microphone while sounding incoherent and cranky. This school is also attended by Danny from Wasted Youth, Keith Morris, Ben Weasel, Jelly Biafra, and Rob from Total Chaos. I go on tangents. Rob once told me something I'll never forget. He said, "Mike, you know what makes your song so funny? It's your lyrics, dude." I previously thought it was Smelly's drum beat that made NoFX songs funny, or maybe my bass riffs. But Rob made me realize it was our lyrics. I responded to him by telling him that what made him, you know what makes you so tall, Rob? It's your height. He laughed, but I don't think he really understood the joke. Anyway, when you have one singer who has a whiny voice that's frequently the wrong frequency, oh, I like that, that's frequently the wrong frequency, and one singer who condescendingly and vindictively sings cleanly and in perfect pitch, the results are harmonies that aren't quite right. Listen to Bleeding Heart Disease, for an example. This was a real problem for me. I had an amazing idea how to fix it. Get someone who could sing harmony on our records that wasn't a Mexican. Is this too long? This is good though. So I called John Kerry from Old Man Markley. He was an amazing singer that clearly wasn't Mexican. And I heard that he did great impressions of Fat Mike when I wasn't around. He even did a cover of Linoleum on America's Got Talent. He came in the top 20. So Johnny not only had perfect pitch, he had an amazing sense of harmony and a spare bedroom that I lived in for 4 months. Johnny ended up doing backups and harmonies on every record I worked on from 2006 to 2020. He sang on 6 NoFX records, Cokie the Clown, Code of Venance, Chabad, Religion, and my acoustic album and the Home Street Home soundtrack. Like, we did a lot of fucking work together. I actually did it. I solved the problem. Since Johnny could totally sing in key and parrot my signature annoying voice, we made great harmonies together. Listen to NoFX, Deadbeat Mom, Don't Count on Me, I'm a Rat, blah, blah, blah. Best Cook in the Kitchen. I wrote about Sam Cooke. The funny thing is, I think most people listening to my albums probably thought I was doing my own harmonies. And if you're one of those people, you were right. It was me doing those harmonies. For all the people that read and understood this chapter, you know the real truth. Maybe. The lesson to be learned here is that the title of this chapter is just fucked up. Not only does it make me sound more xenophobic than sarcastic, but ironically, I recently found out that even though Johnny Kerry doesn't look Mexican or have a name that sounds Mexican, he's Mexican. In conclusion, and in good taste, just try to find someone to sing harmony who has a voice that blends well with yours. It's really that simple. There. So there's the music theory there. That makes sense. All right. Thank you. I've never read anything from the book before.
In the next edition, we'll have some.
All right.
Want to ask it?
Sure.
There was one question I wanted to ask you.
What, did you talk about your chapter?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Well, but my chapter is about Rock Against Bush, so we kind of addressed that a little bit. Unless you want to, there's something you.
I had a question for you.
Oh.
What's hegemonic mean?
Wow.
Because you're on the spot now.
Yeah, I know. Well, it refers to the what is the accepted ideology in short.
Okay.
The dominant ideology.
I'll check on that later.
This is the very short version.
Yeah, I did talk about Rock Against Bush.
Um,
I stole that idea, by the way. I was at Rock Against Reagan. Like I saw NBC and Reagan Youth at the federal building in '84.
yeah,
So I'm like, well, of course, you got to do this.
right. But someone in Maximum Rock and Roll said, "Where were you when the punks were rocking against
Well,
Reagan?"
my band just started like 2 months earlier, but we were at Rock Against Reagan.
I'm quoting.
No.
From,
Oh yeah, in fact, Reagan Youth were on Rock Against Reagan, and that was the second No Effect show opening for Reagan Youth. And the bass player brought his girlfriend from New York, and they went to San Francisco, and I slept with her. Jenny Lesh. That's not important, right? But you did write something. Talk about. You said.
so I can give a brief rundown.
Yeah, you should do that.
So the what I tried to do in the chapter is show what Fat Mike, Jello Biafra, and the other person I spoke with was Jesse Luscious, formerly from Blatz, Fat Wreck employee, Alternative Tentacles employee, not anything, the pathogens. So I couldn't get to Mike directly, so I read through various interviews that he gave at the time, retrospectives on Rock Against Bush and Punk Voter. I interviewed Jello. I kind of interviewed himself on my phone. I said I had questions, and he just started talking about his involvement with the thing for about 35 minutes. And I talked to Jesse a little bit. It was like a few years ago. And then I also looked at some of the essays, because I don't know if you say Punk Voter had a website. It was punkvoter.com, and somebody restored it shortly after when the original one went offline.
Yeah, they stole it. We didn't pay for it. We lost it.
So I looked through some of the essays that were published in there, which were, I think, in my opinion, some of them had kind of a pedagogical function, which is to say, to educate those who had come into punk, not through engagement with local scenes, but rather through that kind of global scene. I think somebody was talking about Warped Tour yesterday, but it was through that kind of disconnected engagement with punk compared to how many of us got into punk. And so I just kind of tried to look at the contradictions in those essays. And then I used the song, the NoFX included in the Rock Against Bush compilation as a kind of hermeneutic, as a lens to look at Punk Voter as a whole. And although Mike's in the liner notes of following record where that song was also included, was it Johnny? I can never remember.
Johnny B. It was just we needed a song.
Yeah, it's
a leftover song.
He says it's a useless song, and it's not political. But if you follow the narrative in the song, you have an alienated punk who is like,
It's a leftover song.
But anyways, I end up arguing that what Punk Voter tries to do is kind of continuing in the tradition of John Sinclair, Maximum Rock and Roll. You were here yesterday. You heard me talk about punk counter infrastructure, build ways to create kind of radical subjectivities through music, through using the effective investment that fans have in music.
Yeah, that's what you did. But, yeah, it's got a great Italian accent. I just wanted to add, you said something about we didn't play cities on Rock Against Bush Tour.
Mm-hmm.
that we went purposely to Arizona and to Bakersfield and to cities where we could maybe change the minds. In Bakersfield, Jello got stones thrown at him, and we had chunks of cement thrown at us. One of them went right through my bass screen on my amp and right through the speaker. And Melvin did a jump, and it hit him in the chest. And it would have hit him right in the head if he hadn't jumped. But these are like huge chunks of cement. That was Bakersfield. So we did not play in front of friendly audiences in what we were saying. And on tour with us, we had, which isn't talked about a lot, is Scott Ritter. If anyone doesn't, Scott Ritter was a Republican Marine, a career Marine that went to Iraq, and he was right under Hans Blix. He was looking for weapons. And he was there for 2 years, came back and said, there's no fucking weapons there. We went everywhere. And Colin Powell says it was one of his greatest regrets is he came back and they character assassinated him. He got fired. And he lost everything. Scott Ritter. He wrote a book about it, and it was just amazing how he told Bush exactly, but we attacked him anyway. And Scott came on tour with us and gave a 15-minute speech about how he's a Republican and how terrible the Bush administration is, which is super cool. I was really proud of that. And at the Republican convention, I got to speak to Harold Ickes for like 30 minutes, one-on-one. He was Clinton's chief of staff. Like, fuck. I had blue spiked hair. It's like, this is pretty fucking cool. That's all I got.
We had one question that we wanted to ask before we go.
Already notes for this.
No, it's just what would you have liked to see in the book that wasn't in the book? An aspect of NoFX's career that you think was not covered enough?
Well, there's 100 things, 100 aspects. No, I cried sometimes reading the book, and someone compared Linoleum to Faust and Schubert. And I was like, what?
It's David.
Yeah. And then it made sense. It switches from minor to major in an unexpected way, but you don't even know it. I was just blown away. And no, from what I understand, there's other articles about NoFX and songwriting and shit.
Outside of the book, or
Yeah, there's just references things. And I,
We were talking
I
about
could just look those up anywhere.
talking about the journal the other night. Oh, Russ.
Do I have to go to the library?
So
We got
Russ
some
here.
comments.
Russ runs a journal, Punk and Post Punk, that's been around since 2012. I've written stuff on NoFX. Ellen's written stuff on NoFX, and tons of other punk bands as well.
It's just crazy. I never read anything.
We just accepted a new article about the use of proverbs in lyrics in NoFX. It's just that's coming up.
Wow.
By an Italian specialist scholar of proverbs. It's got a term, Pariantology or something. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
use another big word there. I was still
I had to look
thinking
it up.
about pedagogy. I'm like, wow, what is pedagogical?
I had to look it up. This guy's an Italian specialist in proverbs, and he's done an analysis of the corpus of the songs that you've written over the years and the use of proverbs in those songs. It's a really good article.
Well, I'm going to start reading them. But also, you guys are so awesome. Just coming to this was so fucking fun for me. Wow. This whole convention, whatever, and these guys. Yes, for you guys, because this is awesome. I'm really so many smart people. I loved coming to this. I'm hanging out at the bar, talking about stuff. Talk to you about Christian metal. It's a chapter about Under Oath. Not Under Oath. Yeah. Under Oath.
Yeah.
So
All right. So this was the thing we're doing.
there's a podcast recording next. So
It's just, it'll be easy. There's no big words. Sorry, I don't use that word vocabulary.
I like big words.
Then I'll use big words, I guess. But I need that book that you were talking about.
Yeah. The source, I think it's called.
Sure. All right. Cool.
Right.
Awesome. Woo! I don't think there was, but we can take a quick break, I guess.
While you set up, like you said.
Yeah, let
like
me,
rest.
yeah.
I wrote something.
The podcast interview will